What if a lion you saved returned the favor? Riley Harper's wrists bled, ropes binding her to a mesquite tree in the Sonoran Desert's searing heat. Sweat stung her eyes, vultures circling above, as two poachers sneered by their jeep. "Buzzards'll handle her," one said, knife flashing. A sedated cheetah cub wheezed nearby, its fate tied to hers. Riley's vision blurred. Not like this. Then a roar shook the earth. Simba emerged, scarred ear glinting. Mane ablaze, amber eyes fixed on her with fierce recognition. This isn't a fairy tale, it'll make you rethink everything. Riley Harper had always been better with animals than people. At 32, she'd spent the last 8 years as a wildlife biologist at Seattle's Woodland Park Zoo, her days a blur of feeding schedules, vet checks, and tourist smiles. Every morning, she'd stand on her tiny apartment balcony overlooking Puget Sound, the fog rolling in like a gray tide, and sip her coffee while the city woke up. The Space Needle pierced the mist, ferries churned the water, and seagulls screeched over the docks. It was beautiful in a rainy, predictable way, but it never felt like enough. Her reflection in this glass door, short, coiled hair pulled back, brown eyes sharp but tired, always seemed to ask the same question. Am I doing anything that matters? She'd grown up in Washington's Cascades, tagging along on her dad's ranger patrols, learning to track deer by the faint bend of grass or a scuff in the dirt. He taught her to read the wild, like a story, every broken twig, a sentence, every paw print, a chapter. "You've got a brain like a steel trap kid," he'd say, ruffling her hair. That brain got her a biology degree, a steady zoo job, and a reputation for spotting what others missed. But it also trapped her in a cycle of doubt. A messy breakup 2 years ago, her ex calling her too intense hadn't helped. She'd thrown herself into work, but the zoo felt like a cage of her own making. She loved the animals, the cheetah's quiet grace, the wolves' haunting howls, but watching them pace behind bars made her chest ache. "I'm not saving them," she'd think, staring at a lioness who'd never know the savannah. "I'm just keeping them alive." Her colleagues were kind, her weekends lazy coffee runs to Pike Place, hikes in Olympic National Park, the occasional dive bar with friends who didn't get her restlessness. "You've got it good, Riley," they'd say, sipping IPAs. She'd nod, forcing a smile, but the question gnawed louder. Am I really making a difference or just playing pretend? She wanted to be a doer, not a watcher, to feel the dirt under her nails and the stakes in her bones. Then a friend forwarded her a job posting. Sonoran Wildlife Sanctuary, Arizona, a 10,000-acre refuge for smuggled exotics, lions, cheetahs, lynx rescued from black markets and circuses. The pay was laughable, the risks real, but the words "field conservation" lit a fire in her gut. This wasn't a zoo. This was the front line. Riley applied that night, her fingers trembling as she hit send. 2 months later, she was in Arizona, her Jeep packed with everything she owned, Springsteen's Thunder Road blasting as Seattle faded in her rearview. Friends called her reckless. "You're giving up a cushy gig for what, snakes and sunburns?" one texted. Her dad, voice gruff on the phone, just said, "Be smart out there." Riley smirked, the desert stretching endless before her, saguaros spiking the horizon like silent sentinels. Swap drizzle for scorpions. 5 stars, Harper. She wasn't naive, she knew the Sonoran Wildlife Sanctuary would test her. No streetlights, no cell signal half the time. Just dust, heat, and the unblinking eyes of creatures who'd seen hell. But for the first time in years, she felt awake. The desert didn't care about her doubts, and neither did the animals she'd come to save. If she wanted to prove herself, she'd have to fight for it. Riley thought she could handle the Sonoran Wildlife Sanctuary, but the desert had other ideas. 3 weeks in, she joined a team patrol along the eastern fence line, checking for trespassers. The heat was suffocating, the air shimmering like a mirage, her khaki uniform drenched in sweat. She scanned the horizon with the binoculars, boots crunching on cracked earth, when a desert bighorn sheep crested a ridge, horns curling proud. One quick shot, she thought, stepping off trail, camera raised. As her team logged coordinates 50 yards off, the desert swallowed her. Dunes shifted, landmarks vanished, no signal, no bearings. Lost in a damn sandbox, she muttered, pulse racing. Her boots snagged a wire snare hidden in the sand. She froze, spotting a trail camera winking red nearby. Poachers! Riley yanked free, her radio spitting static as the heat pressed harder. She fired a flare, its arc fading as vultures circled closer. Hours later, her team's jeep roared up, Tara's voice sharp. "What the hell, Harper?" Riley slumped against a boulder, handed over her sketch of the camera's angle, hands shaky. "They're watching us," she rasped. The lesson burned deep. The desert didn't forgive, and neither did the poachers. She'd never stray again, not without a plan. 6 months of grit earned Riley her first solo patrol, scouting a trail near Coyote Canyon, flagged for odd tracks. She packed tight radio on, GPS blinking, a knife in her boot, every rule a lifeline. "Don't screw this up," she told herself, the jeep's engine growling as she rolled out, dust swirling in her wake. Coyote Canyon was the sanctuary's wild heart, a 500-acre pocket of red rock cliffs and acacias where Simba roamed. 3 years ago, as a rookie volunteer, Riley had released him there. Smuggled from an African breeder, Simba had been caught in a poacher's trap, his leg torn and bloody. For 6 months, she had nursed him, hand-feeding raw meat, her voice a steady hum to calm his snarls, her scent imprinting as safety. When he healed, she chose Coyote Canyon, a spring-fed oasis with deer and solitude, mimicking a lion's turf. She had last seen him vanish into its shadows, his roar bouncing off the cliffs. "Stay free," Shed whispered, never expecting to see him again. The trail was quiet, too quiet. Riley's gut twisted as she spotted a rusted jeep stashed behind a boulder, its hood still warm. She crept closer, peering inside. A sedated cheetah cub, barely breathing, its spotted fur matted. Stolen. Her hand reached for the radio, but boots crunched behind her. 2 poachers shard-eyed, one with a scarred jaw grabbed her arms. "Wrong place, lady," Scarface growled, his knife glinting. They tied her to a mesquite tree, ropes cutting deep. "Buzzards'll clean her up," he sneered, the other muttering. "No loose ends," his blade catching the sun. Heat stroke gripped Riley's lips, splitting. Vision fading as the cub's faint wheeze echoed her own despair. Not like this. Riley's world blurred, her pulse a weak thud, when a roar shattered the air like a thunderclap. Simba charged from a dry wash, mane blazing gold, all 400 pounds a blur of fury. His scarred ear twitched, amber eyes locking on her, not predator to prey, but something deeper. The poachers froze. Scarface dropped his knife, stammering. The other bolted for the jeep. Simba's claws shredded the ropes, his hot breath brushing Riley's cheek, a low purr rumbling as he nudged her upright. His gaze flicked to the jeep, deliberate, fierce. He lunged, slamming his bulk into the door, metal buckling, windshield cracking. The second poacher dove out, scrambling into the dusk, Simba's snarl chasing him. Riley staggered, grabbing the knife. "Simba, you glorious beast." Awe and adrenaline surged. Why was he here? Lion's memory was sharp. Studies showed they held survival bonds for years. Riley had been Simba's lifeline, her scent and voice, his anchor through months of pain. Coyote Canyon, 5 miles off, was his domain. He patrolled it solo, Riley his only pack. Her blood, her cry, "Simba, please," drew him, her scent a beacon in his territory. Not gratitude, loyalty. Simba's tail lashed, his mane catching dust like embers. Riley spotted Scarface's boot prints trailing west. Simba paced beside her, ears swiveling. Snakes hiss. A distant hum his shadow, her shield. The tracks led to a camp. Tents, cages, a generator's buzz. A lynx and another cheetah caged and wild-eyed. Simba growled, his bulk a wall as Riley slashed the locks. The lynx bolted. The cheetah limped free. Scarface doubled back, rifle raised. But Simba's roar froze him, giving Riley time to dive for cover. Her radio crackled. "Tara, West Ridge poachers, move!" Riley's radio crackled with Tara's voice. "We're here." As headlights sliced through the dusk, her team's trucks roaring into the poachers' camp. Dust swirled like a storm, red and gold in the dying light, as sheriffs leapt out, guns drawn. Scarface, caught mid-step with his rifle, froze, his scarred jaw slack. He dropped the weapon, hands rising slow, but his eyes darted for an escape. There was none. Deputies swarmed him, cuffs snapping tight, while the second poacher was dragged from a ditch, cursing through a bloody nose. Riley exhaled, her knees buckling, the knife still clutched in her trembling hand. Tara rushed over, cradling the sedated cheetah cub from the jeep, its mother found darted but alive in a nearby cage. "You did good, Harper," Tara said, her voice steady but her eyes soft. Riley just nodded, too raw to speak. The camp was a grim haul cages of stolen animals, a ledger of black market deals, and a burner phone that led straight to a corrupt sanctuary board member. Riley's sketches of the trail camera and the Jeep's dented fender, logged in her patrol notes, became the linchpin. She had memorized every detail under that mesquite tree, her mind a steel trap even as her body failed. In court, weeks later, she testified with a voice like iron, her gaze never wavering as the officiale smug man in a cheap suit was led away. The trafficking ring crumbled, its network of buyers exposed from Tucson to Vegas. No one clapped. They didn't need to. The cub and its mother, now bounding in their enclosure, were proof enough. Riley visited them on a crisp morning, the desert air sharp with sage. The cub pounced on its mother, a playful tumble of spots, their purrs a quiet song. She smiled, but her eyes traced the fence line, fresh tracks in the dust, deep and deliberate. Simba's. She followed them to Coyote Canyon's rim, the red cliffs glowing gold in the dawn. There he stood, mane catching the first light, scarred ear cocked like a battle flag. His amber eyes met hers, a slow blink carrying the weight of their shared fight. Then he turned, vanishing into the canyon's shadows, his tail a final flicker against the stone. Not a goodbye, a promise. We're not done. Back in her cabin, Riley sat at her rickety table, a notebook open, pen scratching. Didn't save the world, she wrote, but Simba and I, we carved out something real. The desert wasn't her enemy anymore. It was her blood, its pulse matching hers. She'd come to Arizona chasing proof she could matter. She'd found it in a lion's roar, a cub's second chance, and the grit she didn't know she had. Outside, the horizon stretched endless, red rocks sharp against a sky turning pink. She wasn't the same woman who'd left Seattle. She was better. Riley leaned back in her creaky cabin chair, a glass of whiskey in hand, her team's laughter bouncing off the rough timber walls. The Sonoran night pressed against the window, stars blazing over Coyote Canyon, where Simba's low growl rolled like a distant Druma reminder of what they'd fought for. She looked straight at you, her voice steady, eyes fierce. No lion's coming to save you. The wild doesn't wait, it fights. So should you. Pick up trash on a trail, donate to a rescue, call out the bastards tearing this world apart. Start small, but start now. The desert taught me that much. She raised her glass, the amber liquid catching the lantern's glow, her team echoing the toast. Outside, the horizon burned pink, a new day whispering promises. What's your next move?